Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're going to go over the last 2 months of farming results for me. And of course, as usual, we're going to sit by the fire and I'm going to share some of my thoughts and feelings about the game in general. And of course, I wanted to introduce some new interesting concepts to you as well. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So of course, in terms of the last 2 months, Gamer Dad has still been grinding out all his red and green keys. I still do buy maximum green and red keys from the Emporium, and I highly recommend you do so if you want to, kind of stay up to date in this game. And of course, I will discuss that a little bit further on later. Now, of course, being that we do have a lot more units, the ESs, the ASs, and of course some of the altars, I do find the pool for drops are a lot wider. And of course, even though, contrary to popular belief, I believe each and every treatise, codex, and opus that gets added to the pool does not dilute the pool in the fact that reduces the chance of a newer one, dropping. However, I could be wrong on that. Now, previously, there has been data showing that most drops of treatises and codexes are probably around 0.1%, and I imagine the new ones are that as well. Now, the difference, of course, is that so many different 0.1s out there. I'm sure you've noticed as well, especially if you have a 5-slotted reward line on some of the Garrelia or the 2-key dungeons, you seem to get a lot more 2 or even 3 treaties/codex drop than before. And of course, what that means is, although you have a lot of 0.1% chances, not all the ones you want drop at the same time. And so, again, exercise some patience with waiting for the right drops. Of course, as usual, we always say around 3 to 6 months to get one unit upgraded with the treatises and opuses and codexes. And of course, you do need some help from things like PCD clears and the requisite amount of chant scripts, which actually shouldn't be a barrier for you if you're near the end game. I know in the beginning, it does feel like chant scripts are the difficult ones. I can tell you as a veteran of the game, definitely chant scripts come relatively frequent. It's the other ones that are much difficulty. Okay, otherwise, in terms of grinding, current dungeons I am working on is still working on 255 Aisha. At this moment of the video, I believe I'm at about 235 or so light-wise on Aisha, and so I'll be finishing her off and then planning to go back to Iscariot to work on Curio's dungeon to work him up to 255. Otherwise, with my 2 green keys, being that Ashtear and the Omegopolis is the newest dungeon, I am still running green keys there. I'm not using any of the kind of the screws in order to buy tickets for the train, which does, by the way, have an increased chance of getting chant scripts for those who want those. I'm just kind of buying more of those Grasta ores using the drops from the screws. Now back to why I'm doing 255 Aisha and then Curio. You may not notice this, but once you get to the 200 and especially the 255 marks, first of all, the free units that you can grind to that, the stats on them are insane. Whereas like almost a 255 free unit can compare to some decent gadget units in terms of DPS or flexibility. And don't forget that once you have a 4 slotted at 200 light or shadow, you can carry an extra Grasta slot, which would not only increase your damage if you want to go damage, it can also carry Grasta so that your other newer gadget units or other powerful units can be supported that way. And especially with Curio being IDA slash, he can carry a bunch of Grasta for different various teams. Okay. So, the next topic I want to talk about in this video, and I do apologize for the long video, it is 2 months of grinding, and I actually got quite a few drops, more on that later. Why I haven't upgraded yet. Now, I have had a few of your subscribers asking, Will, when are you going to update your roster? What is holding you back? And, honestly, you might have a better time beating some of the older super bosses you haven't beaten with with a newer roster. I'm looking at you, Warped Calcale. And part of the reason actually was, as of the update with Minolka, I was actually quite disillusioned by the lack of good RNG drops. And what I mean by that is, that was about 3 months after the advent of having the Alter Hismina, as well as AS Nakoko, and I felt that those were very, very useful for some of the newer content out there, especially the fact that AS Nakoko can switch elements, and of course with Warp Calcale having different elements out there, you either need a top tier unit to have low turn clears, or you can have ways of kind of changing along with the elements, and you can use AS Nakoko to, of course, as long as you zone set, you can now change the element team to what you want so that you can clear him or it more easily. And so, as a result, honestly, not being able to upgrade many units for up to, now where it's the end of end of May, we're talking almost 6 months. And so remember I talked about just earlier in this video how it can take about 3 to 6 months to get units? Well, I'm telling you, this time around, it's taking GamerDad closer to 6 months to get the requisite amount of treatises and opuses to get those units. I think as of the time of this video, I finally have 4 Fireside cats that have been dropped, and that required some PCD clears. I also do finally have enough opuses to get Frolin as well as Alter Sukiya, which, by the way, would obviously help a lot of the newer content. Having powerful units such as Minolka and having a strong Fire Zone setter such as Alter Sukiya will really bolster my fire team that way. I know that Aisha is quite good, but I mean, Alter Sukiya has additional benefits in terms of extending and awakening another zone and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of why I kind of put off upgrading a bunch, because at the time that I got Minolka, usually after a major pulling session, I do upgrade my roster to kind of match the team, especially units such as AS Yifa, AS Radish, which are, part of the one team, which are extremely powerful, of course. I just kind of put it off because I really want to upgrade a lot of units at one time to kind of bolster my roster, and just having 1 or 2 and missing the ones I really wanted kind of put a damper on that. Now, that being said, I do have most of the drops I want now, so watch on my channel for a huge upgrade video in the near future, as well as eventually an account review after that. I'm sure a lot of you want to see kind of where I'm at, what kind of resources I had, what kind of units I have, what I'm still missing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the next topic I want to talk about is actually a new concept I want to introduce to you, and I did mention it in one of my earlier videos with my AS Yukino 5-star review. So if you haven't checked that video out, you can. And the concept I want to introduce is actually the concept of relaxing Eden. Now, if you're wondering what relaxing Eden means to me, what that means is that instead of having to push super hard, having the major struggles, dying over and over again, having a lot of that frustration, relaxing Eden is kind of like you walk in with a team, you can have relaxing time, you never worry about dying, things are kind of like, going on really well, and you don't really have to feel a lot of stress about it. And of course, you can take a relaxing Eden to a number of different ways in terms of meanings, but that was kind of what I introduced. And the AS Yukino was kind of the first unit I kind of felt that it really did have that relaxing Eden to it. And the reason why is because in one of my examples in that video, AS Yukino with a water pierce team was able to manhandle one of the kind of the boss rush, which was by far the most difficult one at the time. The one that was all fire. Man, it was difficult to get a video out at the time to kind of clear stage 4. I was dying, took a lot of RNG as well as a lot of skill in order to kind of bypass and make it through that boss rush. There's a lot of zone changing, for example, from the unit, for the enemies, a lot of re-establishing fire, a lot of DPS, a lot of HP stoppers and so on and so forth. And AS Yukino made things easy. So yeah, relaxing Eden is great. Now, one thing some of you may not know is that in terms of relaxing Eden, I've kind of actually changed a little bit where I do feel that I want to go more towards that. And the reason for that is I actually, in my very early days when I first built the channel, man, there was a lot of grinding out there. Not grinding in terms of playing the game a lot, but grinding out videos. I wanted to be first or among the first to put out videos. Make sure that obviously that people who logged into YouTube and looking for another Eden content would find me among the top search results. And of course, there wasn't at the time much in terms of content creators. There were a few small ones, and some were much larger than myself. At the time, I was very, very small. Obviously, started from only like 1 or 2 subscribers. Didn't get my friends to subscribe, for example, and kind of built my way up. There were times, especially in the early encounters, where, remember with fights like Serene or Azami, there were fights every 6 hours that you can kind of log in after a 6-hour window and then fight the next stage. Like there were 5 different stages, right? For those newer players, no, you can do all 5 fights in a row. But for us older players, they kind of want to space out the content so that we had to kind of wait every 6 hours. For myself, I actually set alarms and woke up in the middle of the night to kind of get the exact 6-hour window. Try half asleep or in a foggy mode to kind of beat that particular stage, go back to sleep and wake up the next morning and continue punching out content for stage 3, 4, or 5, depending on what it was, while trying to get ready for work. And so those days were really rough. I mean, obviously that hard work and kind of grinding really, made it me the channel I am today. And again, it helped build the community. The AE subreddit was very, very small at one point, and I imagine the Discord was very small at one point. And of course, nowadays, 4 years down the road for global, things are huge. And so, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's ever watched even a single video of mine. I want to thank the community at large for the, for building and kind of being very friendly towards new players. I do want to thank the devs for making such a great game. I really do enjoy the community. Everyone's pretty friendly for the most part. And even on the Discord, which I'm not a part of, I think they do have a lot of resources there. So again, if you're new to the game, need a lot of resources and help, you can definitely check out the AE subreddit and the AE Discord. Anyways, from Relaxing Eden, now what has changed in terms of me and why am I doing a little bit more Relaxing Eden? So first of all, from the time of the very first videos that I published, there wasn't a lot of information out there, like I said. And so my journey was kind of like, wanted to share my journey with the game as well as help people beat content because there wasn't much out there, right? But nowadays, you know what? There are links and to Ultima, which is one of the premier Japanese websites for Another Eden. There are other Eden websites as well. They've become a lot more well known. And so, of course, they have content before we even seen it. And so if you went over and studied, of course, you would be well prepared in order to handle any sort of content that's come out that we are still lagging on, because unless it's a global first or unless it's a simultaneous kind of collaboration, Japan will always have finished content at least 3 or 4 months ahead of us. Now, of course, not only that there's more Ultima websites, even the AE Discord and subreddit is bigger, and so you can have a lot more help with that as well. But finally, the most significant change is that there are much more powerful units out there. Now, you've heard me say this before. Power creep has made it so that my type of videos in terms of boss fights are relatively obsolete. Now, in case you're wondering, I actually tried very hard to use older units to beat content in general. Like for example, when Melissa was hot, I had a Melissa and I had all no Melissa clears for even the toughest contests such as dual hatch shows, and a lot of people had trouble with that. And so I really made it a mission almost to make fights kind of more cool by having restrictions that way, or just kind of like using older units that I really liked but not necessarily were the most powerful out there. Now, in terms of what has changed, a lot of those types of fights cannot be done anymore. For example, you need a one-turn AF a lot of times, or a one-turn setup, and if the boss attacks you in the first turn and you can't survive, you're done unless you use, very new or powerful units. Older gadget units just cannot keep up with newer free or gadget units. Or if I end up using an older team, the kill or the boss fight is ugly, not low turn clear, not eleganto. And maybe that's my skill, but I've played the game the same way for the most part, and I'm thinking that my skill isn't that terrible at this point. I mean, GamerDad's a little bit older than most of you out there, of course, but I think I'm still pretty with it in terms of the absolute skill that I need to beat most of the content out there. Also, back to Power Creep. Power Creep makes it easier to use set teams such as the one team that rules them all, and you know which one team I'm talking about: AS Radius, AS Yifa, there's the Orlea or Alma or other things out there. That one team includes units such as the aka Absolute Defense ×3, and you know who I'm talking about. There's even a newer unit out there that can be put into the one team, Efi for example. And of course AS Yifa, like I said, which makes even a mid-tier DPS into a massive boss killer. Don't forget the newer units can also do Barrier Pierce, which the boss fights almost require unless you want to stall out and do other ways around it. And that limits unit use. There's only a handful of Barrier Pierce units or Efi that can give anyone Barrier Pierce. And so, I mean, yeah, that's really unfortunate that way. Now back to Relaxing Eden. For myself, going to Hawaii actually let me refresh myself, obviously spend more time with the family, and move into Relaxing Eden mode. Now, of course, Relaxing Eden mode doesn't mean that I've quit the game, doesn't mean I quit YouTube, of course. What that means is I still grind my keys, I log in, I collect my rewards, and most importantly, I can play the way I want to now, right? Remember, you can always wait for Power Creep to make bosses easier or content easier if you want to. Or, of course, you can also wait until a video that has your roster and light shadow requirements pops up, because there are a lot more content creators out there, being that, there's so much Power Creep and so much more unit variations. There's large rosters out there, right? So you have a lot more variations, and if you find the video you can follow, that will help you a lot. For myself, of course, I still try bosses. You've seen me beat one of the newest bosses, at least in global. It was a little bit ugly, but again, at least I beat it, right? However, if the boss seems insane, and don't forget, the new boss mechanics can scam you because you scam them with your scam team, right? If you have things like auto revive, barrier pierce, and things like that, guess what? The boss is going to counter with auras, auto shielding, and full barrier, non-penetration and stuff like that. So as the power creep becomes more crazy and you have a scam team, the boss mechanics will also scam you, or the environment will scam you. So keep that in mind. Anyways, one thing I will definitely say at this point is that I love that you can play the way you want to on AE. You can either go super hardcore, you can grind, you can play hours per day. Remember, the open world allows you to grind overworld or do whatever you want. You can do, all your keys, or you can do none of them. You can do minimal work, or you can do a ton of work. And so I do appreciate both sides now, because I've seen it both, right? I've done the, wake up in the middle of the night to play. I've done the can't sleep because the update was so large, I went to sleep very late trying to push out content, or can't sleep because I'm thinking about ways to beat super bosses. Oh man, I have to say I've lost a lot of sleep over Eden, and not because I really worry about Eden. You just keep on thinking about Eden because, for me, I love the game, and so I kept on thinking about ways to beat bosses. And of course, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and of course a lot of stress too, because I don't check with most of the resources out there. I do ask my friend from time to time, but he's not a boss killer at all, and his account is he plays even more relaxing than I do actually. So anyways, I do definitely appreciate the fact that you can do as much as you want or as little as you want. Now, for those who are kind of more on my side currently, where you're playing a little bit more relaxing, a reminder that one thing to keep in mind is regardless of how relaxing you want to be, and all content is permanent and so on and so forth, remember your logins actually and daily keys are not permanent. What I mean by that is that if you don't log in for a week, you literally lost a week of currency, and as much as you can say, yeah, I can come back to the game the week after or the week after next, hey, if you are saving up for the newest banners, that's not going to help you. So regardless of how much or how little you want to play, logging in, watching your videos if you choose to support the game that way, and grinding keys is still very, very important, because at the end of the day, if you don't do that for a few months, you're going to fall behind, especially as a free-to-play player. One good example is that my youngest son, Andrus Prime, he doesn't grind the keys anymore. He does log in for his dailies, and sometimes he watches videos, sometimes he doesn't. I can tell you that his stone count, or his ability to summon, is hampered quite a bit that way compared to his two other brothers who still log in and burn their keys. Because at the end of the day, of course, with free players, unless you pull on every banner, and let's be honest, you're going to go broke. if you do that. You need to get these drops, and they only drop from red and green keys, especially the opuses, which only drop from red keys, in order to progress in the game. Otherwise, you'll be like GamerDad, stuck with no new units for, over 3 to 6 months, and nothing to show for it. And other than pulling on banners, there's no way to kind of update your roster. And I think nowadays, more important than ever, you have to refresh your roster through upgrades. Otherwise, fights just become either insurmountable or, more importantly, not fun, not relaxing. You are struggling to survive super attacks or HP stopper attacks. You're struggling to beat the DPS check, for example, where you can either kill the boss or a one-shot kills you. You are going to be struggling just by having less options to either set zone or have less options, for example, for barrier pierce or clearing statuses and so on and so forth. And all of those new bosses have stuff like that, right? They all have HP stopper attacks. They all have status effects. The environment itself has status effects. You need the updated roster to really help your team along. And like I said, that is very, very, very different from what has happened before. Okay, so GamerDad's been lecturing or talking by the fire for a very long time. So let me know in the comments below what you think about my concept of relaxing Eden. Do you think it's full of crap? Do you think I'm just being lazy? Which, to be honest, I think I am being a little bit lazy. I'll give you that. I am being a little bit lazy. I mean, even my friend says, hey, how come you haven't beat Wart Kelkale? My youngest son has asked me, Dad, how come you haven't beaten Wart Kelkale? He has beaten it. It's not a clean fight. It took him, he said, like 15 to 20 turns using teams like, I think he used Efi, AS Radis, and so on and so forth. And my response to both of them was, honestly, I don't feel like it. It's not enjoyable. I don't want to have a 20-turn tanking team where I'm going to use, AS Radius alternating with Efi, alternating with Pride to tank every hit that comes my way, and then just clearing it that way. And of course, I am being a little bit, sarcastic that way. I know that there are other ways to beat it in very short order. GamerDad's imagination when it comes up to team comps, especially in the newer meta, is certainly not up to par like it has been used to. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I'm still very much enjoying the game, and I don't mind being in relaxing mode for the time being, and playing a ton when I want to, summoning when I want to, and of course not summoning and just putting off super boss fights until I have the urgency to do so. For the most part, I will actually say that super boss fights are really optional in the fact that all you get is 50 or 100 stones. What I really do have to get is to finish off the 3.0 Bolt Bounty Hunters and also some of those side quests associated with it. The reason for that is, of course, as much as most of the super boss content only gives you stones, and who cares about stones unless you're really, really low on them, getting the Elpis weapons is of utmost importance, kind of like the dual Hatchel Void weapons where they are extremely powerful. The Elpis weapons are extremely powerful. They boast the overthrow ability, and for those who have Alter Tuva, you really do want the ability where when you're fighting a more difficult opponent than yourselves, your unit is going to do tons and tons of extra damage, which apparently is much more powerful than any other weapons we have right now. I think it also guarantees crit as well. So if you don't have a crit setter, an Elpis weapon is going to solve your main problem, since you only really need to put it on your main DPS. Most teams nowadays only require one main DPS and one zone setter and a couple of supports. And so, team comps in that sense is a lot easier. You don't have to throw 4 DPS in the game. And so if you're relatively new to the game, make sure you watch my video on kind of building team comps. Having 4 DPS is going to carry you through some of the easier content where you just blast your way into oblivion. However, the newer content is not like that. Okay, I'm going to interrupt my own thoughts right here. And this has been a while. You see Varial right there in El Zion? I mean, in Verikai Village. If you see that and you're doing a PCD clear, you can press on Varial. It's very, very rare that Varial shows up there. When you do, auto sends you to El Zion. So I know some people have never seen that before. It's freaking rare. I think this is only I want to say my second time of doing this. And so, yeah, definitely press on it. It doesn't give you an exclamation mark, so you won't know ahead of time. And for myself, I decided to actually pick, instead of the Phantom Thief Treatise, which is AS Dewey, I decided to go back to one of my original units, the OG6, and go with one of the codexes that have just dropped, the Arcana Codex. I do like Mariel, especially from the newest ES Mariel, the kind of the Apocrypha. And not only that, of course, I'm a little bit spoiled. I do have a 120 light Mariel, and so for me, I think that would be more fun to kind of have that unlocked as soon as possible. Not only that, of course, but if you've been saving those specialized items to increase light on your units, you may actually have enough light items between, you know, in this case, staff with Mariel with Guiding Light Fist. And you can 255 a gacha unit even if you're free to play. I know that long-time subscribers will know that I put out a video where I 255 my Nagi ES. You can definitely do that with even you know, units that are ES and have 2 forms, because you can combine the Guiding Light or Luring Shadow items depending on what unit it is. It doesn't work with, of course, altars, because altars are a separate unit. But if you have an ES unit and you have enough items to combine the two, you can actually get 255 relatively straightforward, being that you can concentrate your 5 light or shadow on, you know, 1 unit at a time. And there you go, another Athena Codex, which is of course ES Miyu, not the Arcana. I actually was really excited when I first saw that, and yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. Okay, so back to the video itself. I've actually gotten a lot of good drops over the last 2 months, and surprisingly, mostly in the last 2 weeks. I've actually still been pretty busy with other aspects of my life, and so that's another reason I'm finally excited and waiting for the large upgrade that I'm going to be doing. You should let me know in the comments below what units I should be upgrading. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be, I have enough for almost every unit up to date, other than, I think I don't obviously have AS Dewey, and I don't have ES Mara yet. I also don't have AS Garam or AS Hina, but I think I have everyone else in terms of ability to upgrade. And so I'm pretty much going to concentrate on Absolute Defense ×3, aka AS Radius. I'm going to get the AS Yifa, because AS Yifa is so broken. And of course, my waifu ES Suzette, among other units out there. But again, let me know in the comments below if you have any special favorites that you want me to upgrade. Sorry for the long video and long talk, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.